Are the vocals too loud now? I switched out of my mics into those speakers. Are they too loud? It's all right.
Yeah, this is the beginning to start the story off. I'm a firm believer in reincarnation. Always have been, always will be, some form or another. I'm inclined to think we create our own destinies. Although some things may be beyond our control, such as any sort of artistic gift. So to speak, I think we carry these gifts with us forever into the infinite, and they become a responsibility to share. I'm not of the school of thought that one can be taught these things, however. Either you have the ears to hear, the eyes to see, the mouth to speak, or you don't.
Well, my name is Brenda Moffat. I like my last name, but not my first name. I don't think it's very fitting of my personality. I am 28, soon to be 29 this summer. This has an internal struggle going on. And, you know, what might be a big struggle to someone is not necessarily another struggle to someone else. What I struggle with most is the muses, because when they call, I'm not always available, because I'm not making a living doing what I'm doing, so I get lost of words here.
No, I know what you're saying about the muse, and it does kind of come and go, and whether you're there or not to pick up on it, that might go.
Yeah, it's a struggle to maintain everyday living and then do this at the same time. A lot of my work is philosophical and spiritual in nature, and sometimes I use it as a forum to voice my concerns or voice my complaints or voice my anger about what's going on in the world. Experiments in secrecy. They call it progression, the regression of principles and mental institutions, the Ivy League legalities and mentalities towards the shrugging of universal shoulders, tailored, totalitarian soldiers of the stock market, exchanging hands stained jaded by the ink of a new kill's telltale blood insignia teeth, colored crimson and dripping fresh from the feast of big business barbecues, and backroom political parties inviting the Oval Office to pass bills in secret, bigger than Abe and not so honest, carrying them in their upper breast pockets where their hearts should have been beating. Instead, their laundered money-stuffed shirts are shredding at the seams with every movement, stretching to scratch at the rashes of irrational rationalizations, the everyday momentum dealing in premeditation, scientific thoughts and methods, the strategic development of secrets well kept behind closed eyes and mouths like doors locked and storing their trust funds labeled safe for the family, children with test tube testicles and petri dish pelvises glowing green and golden with the after effects of daddy's expensive experiment. Everyday scenes inspire me, such as one day I was waiting for the bus, and I saw this guy walking. It was like early in the morning, it was like 5 o'clock, dawn was just happening, I was downtown, there were skyscrapers, you know, and this guy is walking down the sidewalk, and I can see, you know, the outline of the city surrounding him, and he's holding 2 bags, just stuffed shopping bags, and he's kind of hunched over and slumped, and he's holding the bags, and he looks so weighted down, and it's gray because of the dawn, and all of a sudden I see these pigeons just like shoot up behind him and raise up into the air. So it was like the paradox of, you know, ascension versus being weighted down, and it was so beautiful. And things like that, just those moments, inspire me. You know, it can just be, you know, at times I wish that I was a photographer instead of a writer, because those moments I would love to capture.
I would venture to say that aside from the muses, I find inspiration in almost everything. Life's daily scenes we all act out, the well-placed words of verbal accidents, Not too long ago I was driving, can't remember where. I passed an exit. The sign read, "Need More." Well, that was the name of the place, I kid you not. As I looked off to the right, I saw car dealerships, restaurants, gas stations, and strip malls. That's an example of what gets my pen in motion.
Into the heart of contradiction. I saw not the face of apathy, nor the face of hope, but the heart of contradiction. The intricacies of isms and schisms, the complexities of paradoxical proof. A flame burst and burned forth from within both ends, internally ignited by outside methods. I looked into the cruel eyes of justification's intent, the intent to justify. My eyes saw the symbolism of symbiotic odds, the pull and repel of rational reasoning, the thoughts and the unthinking, and the thinking of unthoughts. I have lived the way of the lost and the lost way of the found, and I find myself unrelenting and unreflecting the face of apathy or the face of hope, but the heart of contradiction felt in my own.
My name is Mark Perry. I'm 31 years old. I'm from Walnutport, Pennsylvania, which is right outside of Allentown in eastern Pennsylvania.
How'd you end up in Covington? When did you come here?
September 1994, I landed on Bakewell Street in West Covington, and it felt like Sesame Street to me, so I've been here ever since. I always felt like guitar itself was very important. Like, it was the one thing that kind of, pulled me out of the whole, I quit the basketball team and I stopped hanging out with my friends, and just sort of played guitar. It sort of gave me this sort of nourishment that nothing else would give me, and I knew it was the key to my, whatever you want to call it, salvation. My goals in life are just to keep creative and keep working hard, and I've been able to do it here, and so I guess I've been accomplishing my goals, and so I haven't been lured to hipper places such as, New York City or Los Angeles or whatever, to try to make it, I figured making it is keeping creative. If you make money and stuff, man, icing on the cake, That's icing on the cake. Not that I think it's a myth to be like a starving artist. I don't know where that myth came from, but you should be. I think art and money could work. I'm all about making some money. But keeping creative, man. Like Flannery O'Connor, somebody asked her the same question. Flannery O'Connor was asked that same question. She was asked, "Why do you write?" She said, "Because I'm very good at it." And I think that I want that to be the reason Heba Haba pursues what they do, not for any kind of happiness or spirituality or fun, or good times, or I find material out of joy and jumping around in the woods. I find material out of smashing my head against a piece of glass because I'm so frustrated with something, and I can then later on I'll write a couple lines and that might turn into a song. Total hatred, total deep dark depression to total light-hearted joy. I think they both make good songs.
I've been called a bragger, my shit's been called a fag been called a bushwhack and overtly clever.
What is happiness to you? Just having a sense of fulfillment each day, doing your work. And Neat Battle Style. It was a documentary I saw about graffiti. It's called Style Wars. technique versus style, style will always win. That's what they say, and I believe that. You know, you have to style. It's fashion, not fashion in the sense where you're wearing clothes, but fashion like you're fashioning something. You're fashioning the energies coming at you in all directions, you know, and you're fashioning them. You're sculpting them. Sometimes sculpting is stripping away. Ibahava is a rural Pennsylvania word. You know, it means from the mountains. That's what I grew up with the word Ibahava in eastern Pennsylvania, and I chose that name for the band back in 1993, and it's 2004 now, and I believe it's the perfect name for the band, you know, because it means outsider, basically. Colin Wilson wrote a book called Outsider, but I read it a long time ago. I can't remember what's in it.
Make it to the northern tip of Maine. Gonna get real far out today.
Okay, first let's start by hearing your name, age, place of birth, and where you grew up.
Adam Shelton, 29. I was born in Fort Thomas, Kentucky, and raised by Cincinnati, basically, northernmost part of Kentucky. I tend to be a misanthrope and kind of hibernate from the world and avoid the phone a lot, and I catch a lot of hell for that, but this is like my little dungeon studio hibernation cave, and I'm always, if happy for more than 5 minutes, I'm always happiest just putting some music on the radio and working down here. I always drew, and it was always fairly clear to me, just from just looking around me at other people and just from always being reinforced with it, but I had some sort of technical faculty that was different than technical drawing ability, you know, that was different than what a lot of people had, and I had no concept of what art could or couldn't be, and at that point, when I was young, of course, I had no idea about direction. I had no conscious thought about direction and developing a style. I just looked at it as the next step. I was always intimidated by painting, so I just looked at it as the next step. You draw on paper, you draw basically with a paintbrush on a canvas. So my first stuff that I did was the same kind of technical rendering of things that I saw around me. I think my influences for making art are just so broad. I mean, if you're going to narrow it down to painter artists, Paul Lafley and tons of Renaissance painters, Caravaggio especially, Rubens, and then even in the graffiti, you know, contemporary guys like Doze Green. An artist's career, my perfect vision. I guess the dictionary definition of that would be just doing what you want to do, making a living at it without having to do something else, and without compromising whatever it is, your integrity and your vision, whatever it is you want to do. But that's in a utopia planet that doesn't exist, and it's second place to that would be to still be able to do what you want to do, and have to earn money in a way that wasn't terribly, if not fulfilling, then not terribly oppressive or, you know, life draining every day. Even people like, you know, Best God, who stylistically kept doing what they want, what looked to be his natural style, or whatever he formed or decided his style was going to be. A compromise could come in the form of the pressure to keep doing that same thing instead of the opposite, where you would think compromise would be an aesthetic or a stylistic change to meet the needs of someone else, but it could also be to the pressure to keep doing that and stifling that way.
What is happiness to you?
I'm pretty happy sitting and doing nothing sometimes. I was reading a Joseph Campbell book where he was talking about the joy in how people overlook the fact that it's okay and you should be guilt-free to just embrace doing nothing, to be vacant, to have a vacant stare, and that's okay. That's a kind of a form of bliss.
What is the difference between talent and skill? And what I mean by that is talent will be something maybe you're born with, skill will be something you learn along the way. Is there a difference for you, and do you feel like you fall on one end or the other?
I think talent is defined a lot of times by other people. I think a lot of times skill can be something that's if talent is like that raw block of plaster, then skill kind of chisels away the marble or whatever to create the grand work.
This first poem is Wanted Ear Martyr. I'm thinking if Mike Tyson can bite a guy's ear off, what if I bit this page's ear off, god damn it? Boxing fans have a chunk of Holyfield's ear. Fans of fine art have Vinnie Van Gogh hacking his ear off for a hooker. Film fans have Michael Madsen and Reservoir Dogs. Well, hell, I'm not gonna hack my ear off for poetry, for this sorry bunch of losers. Panty waists, these delicate wusses of the ages. Fuck that. If you think poetry is that badly in need of an ear martyr, then go ahead and do it yourself.
Say your name again?
Cliff Spisak.
How old are you?
30 years old.
Where are you from?
I'm from, I was born in Florida, but I'm lived the last 20 years in Kentucky. Covington, Kentucky.
What's your poetry about? What do you...
I don't know, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Wine, women, and song.
Do those fit into your vices?
Yeah, I guess so.
Would you consider them vices?
I guess so.
Do they hurt you? Do they help your writing?
They hurt my life. They help my writing, I guess.
You think you could have one without the other?
I can't do anything without writing. It's the only way I can get satisfaction. I guess about 12 is when I started writing a lot. I guess about age 17 is the first things I wrote that I would consider like serious, and that's when I first started thinking that that's what I wanted to try to do with my life. Hollywood with loincloth. Look up, the sky is weeping rain, pleading for a return of some kind. The night saber is in your brain. The oceans are unpredictable. Dostoevsky runs down the boulevard, a knife in the center of his back. There's cum on the Bible and pigeons in the stew. 90-foot horses will trample your villages. A hog's head runs wild. The ghost of chance sings madly. They can now bottle pheromones. Plumbers get lost in Peru. The eyes of Texas are lazy, glassy. Only lemons are in the limelight. The night is bending. The lotus of fate awaits, sucker. 30 is young for a writer. It's like athletes, you've blown your wad by the time you're 40. Like everything you're going to do, all the glory you're going to have, is over by the time you're 40, and it's all downhill from there. But there are musicians, too. You peak in their 20s or 30s. But, most writers don't peak until their 50s or 60s, or even get recognition until their 50s or 60s.
What do you think that is?
It's more difficult. I think it's more difficult to be a writer. You gotta. It just takes there's so many millions of words you have to write before you can get it right. That's, things you have to experience and life you have to live. It's an 18-year-old now. How good a writer they are. They have so little life experience, so little to draw from. A 50-year-old, even if they weren't a natural write, so many more things to draw upon as they live longer. I think they have a lot of humor. Humor in it at all times. Literary references, yeah.
Who do you think is most inspiring to you?
Charles Bukowski, Barry Gifford, Sam Shepard, Richard Brautigan. It kind of showed me that anybody could do it. I don't know, so blue, something. He was just writing about real life and there's some blue collar quality to it. It's less pretentious than other things and funnier. Now, poetry isn't the biggest influence on my poetry.
What is?
Probably real life and paintings and cinema and novels. One year sit in dirt. One day I'll awaken, having died quietly in the night. The auras of all living things will be as plain as the boneless fingers almost waving in front of my face. The roads of Fatima will appear before me, and 40,000 disciples will stake their claim of the moat from that most storied crucifix. A calmness will trail after me, like unimaginable flora from a trick baby's nightmare, and I will sleep as a shark sleep, in the fold of a constant waking dream, then checking the pulse of my mother, find that all is as ever, if not well. I guess I'd want it to be received the same way that I receive art that I enjoy, music or books that I enjoy. I just, like if somebody bought one of my books, I'd want them to think they were getting their money's worth, that the work was good enough, that they would, that it would get read more than once. Like, books I enjoy, I read more than once, or an album you buy, you listen to a lot. I don't know if I have skill or talent. I try not to think about those things. That's not for me to decide, I guess.
I mean, I don't know. Is it art if we're gone and the planet's still around and all the art's here? Is it if there's no one to appreciate it and no one to try to understand it? Is it still art? I don't know. I don't know how much it matters then, and I'm not sure if it matters at all. I mean, if art's just about the process, I mean, to me it's about the process and the product, but if one was to say it's just about the process, then you might as well just create it or destroy it after it's done. I mean, it's pretty damn relative and subjective, and if it's personal and the creator considers it art, then that doesn't mean it's objectively art. It just means that it's relative, and the viewer, the experiencer of that art may or may not think so, and that's okay. It should be okay.
I grew up in a really religious house, and I don't believe the same way that my parents believe. They're basic, go to church on Sunday Christians, live their life according to the rules of the Bible, and I never bought it, and I dug deeper, and I dug deeper, and I dug deeper, and I realized that I think there are people on the other side that send messages to us, and I think that a lot of things, when people hear things, they're tapping into the music of the universe, such as musicians, they do that, and I think with poetry, it's a form of music as well.
Do you believe in God?
Oh, me? Do I believe in God? Yeah.
Or describe your belief kind of more in more detail, maybe.
Oh Lord, I mean, I'm not a preacher. I don't want to, missionaries would come to Africa and preach to them and say this is the one true way to believe. And a lot of the traditional beliefs in Africa, they'd be like, oh, that's cool, and they would take that in and say that's cool, and they would mix it in with their own beliefs, and say, but in the Europeans that would come and say, no, that's not true, but the sun started coming up, and I was like, dang, man, if God does exist, it probably looks a lot like that sun, but it's not that sun. That sun's just a metaphor for God here,
Do you feel like your music is a bridge to that?
I try to, what do they call that, I don't know the words, man, but yeah, as far as a human animal can be here on this earth, earthbound and human, you know, yeah, to pay respect to that and try to pay attention to that and try to harness that. But
do you believe in God? And does your belief tie into your work, what you write about? Do you think it has a relationship?
I don't write about faith in God a lot. I guess it's maybe difficult. I don't know. I write about death a lot. I guess that ties in. I guess I believe in God and as a moral person as you be, just you know, to try to sin as little as you can, as difficult as that is most of the time. I guess I was atheist about 23 or 24. It was all up until that time, I wanted not to be an atheist. I wanted to believe in it, but I couldn't. You can't make yourself believe it if you don't believe it. So I guess it's as simple as just like waking up one day and just inexplicably feeling it to be something that's right in your heart, whereas you know you didn't before, and then for reasons that you can't explain, if it feels right in your heart, I guess you can't try to analyze too much why it feels right in your heart all of a sudden, whereas it didn't before. You just accept it as feeling right and be grateful for it.
But I can't imagine how anybody can call themselves anything but an agnostic. I can't imagine how anybody can say they're an atheist, and I can't imagine how anybody can say they're, you know, a Christian. And to me, it's all not being honest. So, I don't define God or my religious spirit or whatever by these churches, these businesses, essentially, because that's what they are. I think the need to believe in something beyond you is kind of innate to people, to humans, because if you believe that there's a benevolent higher being, and that kind of justifies all the suffering and the pain you experience and see around you, and it kind of makes life worth living.